I love the layers.
Mm.
You have like the yellow at the back as a background, like the tall trees. And then on the first plan, you have the oranges and the reds. It's like the perfect composition.
Firstly, could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's been an incredible experience and a very special moment in my life to be here. My name is Rogerio Soares. I was born in Brazil from a family of Portuguese immigrants. And I lived in Brazil for part of my life. And then I left and I traveled around the world. Basically, right now, I'm settled in Canada, but I lived in a lot of other places before. So I keep saying that it's like I'm from everywhere. I feel like I'm from everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm very Brazilian as well, in my sense, yeah.
So, about your artistic practice in general, would you describe yourself as the artist with a certain style?
More than style, I would say kind of experiences, because I started as an actor, then I became a dancer, then I became a painter, then I became a photographer, then I worked with sculpture, then I decided to work with film. So I keep thinking that I'm a little bit of a collection of all of those experiences. And I eventually go back to some of them, but right now, in the last years, I've been working mainly with film. Although more and more my work of films been going back to references in painting and photography. So I understand it as a kind of a cycle, that I'm starting to realize that what I'm doing with film right now has a lot to do with the other things that I've done in the past. And I think it's this experience in Japan that has mostly opened up my eyes to that type of kind of perception.
Is this your first time in Japan?
No, it's my second time. I was here 10 years ago. I was here for 2 months. Was in Tokyo, and then I was in Kyoto. I've only been to those two places because I'm a slow traveler. I don't like going to places like for a day or 2 days or 3 days or a week. I stay. And sometimes it's a bit of an experience because sometimes there is nothing holding you there, but I keep kind of, insisting on places, and it's my own way of understanding the world. And again, I find it quite interesting because this is a pattern that I'm using in the film that I'm developing here, because I'm shooting in 4 places. And for the last almost 2 months, I've been going to those 4 places every day, repeating the same project, the same path, looking at the same things. And every day is different. And I just realized that it's like the way I'm making this work, it's the way I travel, which is always going around the same places, always looking at the changes, always kind of always expecting something different to happen. So that's how I travel, basically. If I go to India, I stay in 1 city, 2 cities, no more. I don't go like on a train up north and south, east and west, looking at everything, observing everything, but also staying like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and it's like, done. I don't do that. So it's really funny because I just realized that it's like these 4 locations here in Sapporo that I go every day. I'm shooting my film in 4 parks, and that's it. But I go and visit those places every day, and they become part of my life because I recognize them and I develop a sense of emotion towards them. So trees and rocks and even people and architecture and all of those things that I find, I go and I repeat. I keep on going, and I establish a kind of an emotional dialogue with those places as well. you know. And one thing I can guarantee you, when I leave Sapporo, those places, they are like imprinted in my mind. I'll never forget them.
This is additional story that so yesterday we went to the glass artist with Mr. Uesugi.
Yeah.
So then I watched what you ordered him, and you get that material and lens effects, lenses for special effects.
Setting your camera.
Yes. Ooh, this is beautiful.
Did you have plan to order those lens?
Okay. I've been working for a while because I was a photographer before. And when I was a photographer, I didn't want to have pictures, sharp pictures. I wanted, and I photographed with film. So I always played with the softness of the images. And I always created filters to make the images diffused. So I have like a huge series of photos that I took with a plate in front of my lenses. And I did it for quite a while, you know, because I wanted to have the very, very sense of shapes, but not the real form. So this is not something new because I did that in photography. Then when I made River Silence, we experimented with that using analogic lenses and, you know, glasses and stuff like that. And then when I did Saudade, I kind of worked with that as well. And then coming to Sapporo, when I saw that there was like a glass artist, I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity to try to think of optical objects that I can place in front of the camera, that I can try to get fragments of image through the glass, basically. So he made those beautiful objects that we discussed, like possibilities of how to make them, and I'm very excited to try them on. I mean, I haven't done that yet because I just got them yesterday, and I'm kind of thinking that it's just a kind of continuation of a process of using deformed images that I like deformed. They are not deformed, they're images, but they are not really in focus, they are not really clear, because I think there is something interesting to explore there. It brings me states of mind, it takes me away from realism, from reality. So that's the reason why, and we'll see how it works. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Please show us after you finished the work, which is used those.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes. And let's see how it goes. If kind of marries the images of nature, which are more formal images, and I think the very important thing that can bring them together is sound. So we had an experience here at the center playing with like sound, you know, kind of deconstructing sound. And I think that to me was very important, because when we did that, I understood that it's like, oh, this is pretty much what I want to do in this film. I want to deconstruct the images with sound, but at the same time, I want to create a dialogue between this deconstruction that can somehow rescue the images into a kind of a, I don't know, but that's when it was very clear to me that it's like I'm not working with sync. I'm not trying to fit the images with a specific soundscape that is close to nature. I want to create something that is completely different. So the session that we had here, which like improvising, was great because it was like, I love this, I love the sound of this, I love this cacophony, this mixture, I love this pollution of sound because everything is together and it's really noisy. At the same time, the images are so pure, they're so, you know, and I want to play with those opposites basically and see how far I can get with them.
Could you please describe the project you've been working on at Tenjin-yama?
Okay. Well, to explain a project, this is when it becomes a little bit kind of philosophical. I wanted to come back to Japan because when I came 10 years ago, I had a very strong personal experience of being here, sensing some sort of familiarity with Japanese culture that I couldn't explain, but that really I don't know, made an impact on me. Maybe because in Brazil there is a huge Japanese history because there are more than 1 million Japanese or Japanese descendants living in Brazil, and I lived in São Paulo, which was the city and the region, the province that received all the Japanese immigrants from the 1930s to a little bit before the war. And in São Paulo, I was very close to the Japanese culture. I have Japanese cousins in my family who married, the Portuguese side of my family. So in a way, like the urban culture of São Paulo, the city of São Paulo, it's being formed by the Japanese and also by the Italians and by the Portuguese and the Spanish. Brazil is a country of immigration, so the Japanese immigration was always present in my kind of visual and emotional history, basically. And those days that I spent here, they really kind of made me feel that I needed to come back and explore more. So I did a lot of writing, and Japan has always been in my mind, and then there was a moment that I said, I don't know why, I have to go, and I have to go for a longer time. So I'm here for 3 months, and I wanted to work this time. I wanted to do something, and that's when I started thinking about a film. It's a film that it's actually shot in different places, in different countries, Canada, Brazil, Japan. But I always knew that coming here, it would be an important part of it, although I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. But it was very clear to me that the relationship between people and nature was something that really impressed me. And I landed in Hokkaido, which is like surrounded by green, surrounded by nature. And Sapporo is a green city surrounded by mountains with rivers crossing the entire city, with like salmon jumping the water, and And when I came here, I said, "Whoa! I already know it's the relationship between, people and nature. It's nature. That's what is bringing me here." And then I started developing kind of my eye towards this beauty that I see here. How do I represent that on film? What is the meaning of it? And it becomes really philosophical because every day I go out, nature is different. And I've been able to observe the change of the seasons. I live in Canada. We have very similar seasons. We have like a beautiful fall. We have like a very strong winter. We have an incredible summer. We don't have spring. Like in Montreal, where I live, there is no spring. There's just rain. But it was something that I already developed by being in Canada, being aware of the seasons. So when I came here, again, I'm talking about something that I had references, but it's also completely different. Because here, I think there is a time. There is a sense of time in nature that I didn't find in my life in Montreal. We're too busy. Nature is all over, but we really disconnected. We know it's like, oh, it's beautiful, let's go for a walk. But everything's very fast. And here in Sapporo, I see people taking their time to be with nature. I see people taking their time to observe nature. Especially, we are in Tenjama Park. We are in the middle of a park. So we see visitors every day from 6 in the morning until evening. And they are always walking very slowly and always looking at nature, always observing it. And it's incredible to see like this dedication towards nature, you know? And this is something that immediately struck me. I was like, wow, people actually take their time to be in nature. It's not that you go for a walk and you take a photo and you leave. It's like they walk very slowly. They are very observant of the environment. And obviously this brings you energy. This brings you a sense of beauty and a sense of, thinking about, life and bigger things, because nature brings it all over to us. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I found quite incredible is how perfect the design of nature is. Everything is so well composed, right? I mean, Japanese culture, it's really formal in a way. It displays things. Everything has a balance. Everything has like an equilibrium. Everything has a form. Everything it's kind of has a sense of beauty and balance and perfection, And this is in nature as well. Nature, it's perfect in its design here. And sometimes I understand that it's nature itself, but a lot of it's work done by man. A lot of it, like when you go to parks, you see the hands of this culture helping to shape it with the rocks, with the paths, and even the plants, the trees that are planted. And it seems that there is like a great designer that goes like, wow, in spring, this flower, it's gonna be contrasting with this rock, and there will be a shadow here that will be like composing the picture, because everything is the perfect picture. And I see that in this composition there is a lot of human work as well, taking the best that nature can offer and transforming aesthetically in something that is like it's a display, but it's also painting, and it's also the possibility of an experience with some kind of nearly sacred place, because it becomes so powerful, so beautiful, that it has a sense of being sacred. And then it's linked to Shintoism and linked to Buddhism and linked to the relationship the Japanese people have to nature and the powers of nature. So everything is carefully thought and carefully designed, even if it's at an unconscious level. Right? Even if it's not really, there is nobody with the pen and paper saying this, but I think because it's part of the culture, it's within, this culture to build those environments. And in those environments, you see the cycles of life. You see, not only with the seasons, but, on a day-to-day. It's like, I went to the sculpture park 5 days ago, and there was this incredible tree with like yellow leaves, and, the sun was shining, and the yellow was like primary yellow colors. It was just like an explosion of yellows. And there was a pond, and that tree was being reflected on that pond. So you had the yellow, but darker because it was like in the water. And then you had the dead leaves right on the bottom. So you have like 3 layers of different colors. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And I stayed there and I shot it. And then I went back 3 days ago, and all the leaves were gone. The tree was like no more, and I was like, oh my god, it's like I had the chance to be here with the right light. The sun was shining against the leaves. The tree was like completely beautiful, and then 3 days later there is nothing. The tree is ready for winter, and I see that every day observing nature. Those changes is like nature changes every day. So if you lose the opportunity to film something, I started doing that. It's like, whoa, today's Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the morning. This light is perfect. This is beautiful. But I don't have my camera here. So I'm going to come back tomorrow. Forget it. Tomorrow is another day. The light's different. Situation is different. That image does not repeat itself. Same for sound. Because what I do, making a film that it's like no sync. So I either leave Tenjama with my camera, not worried about sound, or I don't take my camera, but I take my sound gear and I only do sound. So I only do images or I only do sound, because I want to recreate those two environments independently and then bring them together, creating a kind of a dialogue. But it's like I don't want anything synced. I don't want anything linear. So the days that I do sound and I see a video opportunity and I don't have the video camera, because I don't want to mix those things, I don't want to mix my brain, right? So if I'm doing sound, I only want to think about sound. And I see an image and I go like, I'm coming back tomorrow, but tomorrow it doesn't exist. And it's the same with sound. Sound is even quicker than nature. It's I think it's really related to Buddhism, the impermanence of things. It's the moment, it's the right now that matters, because it's the only concrete real thing that exists. The past is gone, the future doesn't exist, because the future might not happen for me. I might not be alive, or I might not be here. So when I think of the future, what is the future? It's a supposition, right? And nature is teaching me that within my process of work, which has been fantastic, because it's kind of teaching me something as well. And then it's like I think the third part of this process was, how do I make a film that is like, basically there's almost no people. There are like insects and rocks and water and leaves and sky and everything else, Obviously, when I think of sound just as another layer of a narrative, and I do sound completely opposite to nature. So I do construction sites, I do the traffic, I do voices, I do, I'm not trying to match nature with sounds of nature. On the contrary, I'm making two things that are completely different. But at the same time, I keep thinking like, how do I make a film like this? And the environment of being in those places where, when I talk about being sacred, also because it's full of religious monuments, right? You go to nature, there is a Buddha, there is a Shintoist temple. There is always an element that reminds you of the tradition of the religious philosophies of Japan, or a rock. You might not have a Shintoist temple, but you have a rock with the same type of message in its shapes that you see in a temple. So it's just, nature is a temple, right? So, because I feel that sense of being in a place that it's also kind of bringing this sacred out of, us and the nature, I've been studying some Buddhist texts, and I found the Heart Sutra, which is one of the most important sutras in Buddhism, and I love it. And I never made that connection until one day when I said the impermanence of not being able to see nature preserved, static, not changing. Nature is changing all the time, and it's teaching me that it changes every time. I might see something that I want to film, but if I spend 2 minutes kind of cleaning my camera, that's gone. So nature is impermanent all the time. And I thought of the Heart Sutra because the Heart Sutra is the teaching about impermanency and the reality of things, or the lack of reality, because it's all in our minds. So right now I'm on the stage that I'm kind of trying to adapt the Heart Sutra or the philosophy of the Heart Sutra to the film. Maybe I'm not using it. Maybe I'm using the references that it gives to the film. Maybe there will be a voice. You know, maybe there will be a sound construction that reminds of a voice. I don't know. It's too early to think about it as a kind of a formal structure. But certainly, the Heart Sutra has helped me to understand the experience that I was having personally by being close to nature and by seeing nature in all its glory and power, you know, teaching me about impermanence and the change that it, you know, it's in constant evolution, it's in constant change.
Next question. What did you get from this air experience?
I think it's everything that I told you, because it's like if it wasn't for the possibility of being at Tenjama Art Studio in the park, close to nature, if I had come to Sapporo staying somewhere else, my perception of the city would change. If I were placed on a residence downtown in this, you know, in the city, this film wouldn't be made as I'm describing here. It would have been something else. Because what is happening to me is that by staying in nature and by shooting the film in 4 parks, by the way, 3 of them are like walking distance from here, you know, and the other one, it's far, I have to take a bus, but if it wasn't for that, I am not going to the urban places because I'm kind of hypnotized by nature.